Have you ever looked at a modern world map and felt absolute security? History textbooks always present our continents as static and permanent pieces of rock. But high-precision thermal satellite telemetry reveals a completely different and terrifying reality. The stable ground beneath your feet is actually a fragile and fractured shell. Deep under the continents lies a monstrous molten engine with unimaginable kinetic energy. Right now, 11 specific geographical coordinates are actively tearing the planet apart. This is not a slow, invisible, or peaceful geological process. Giant fissures are violently opening up across the globe, threatening to erase infrastructure. Unstoppable physical forces are aggressively rewriting the physical map of our world. Declassified geodetic radar data confirms that this continental fracturing has drastically accelerated. The solid crust is giving way, and the geography we know will vanish. Imagine standing inside a desolate, burning desert depression where the ground literally explodes. Welcome to the Afar Triangle in Ethiopia, a lethal volcanic wasteland. This is the exact site where three massive tectonic plates are pulling apart. The internal strain has forced the Earth's crust to thin out completely. In 2005, the lithosphere finally reached a violent snapping point. A monstrous 60-kilometer fissure ripped open the desert floor in 10 days. Think about the sheer mechanical force required to shatter solid bedrock so quickly. This sudden tectonic rupture instantly swallowed and displaced several cubic kilometers of stone. The open abyss dropped hundreds of meters straight into toxic, boiling vents. Superheated steam and poisonous sulfurous gases now scream out from the dark fractures. The magma chambers beneath the Afar region are rising at terrifying velocity. Solid basalt layers are snapping like glass under continuous pressure from below. This displacement creates massive underground voids that threaten to collapse surrounding landscapes. The African continent is physically splitting in two, creating a new ocean floor. Move across the globe to a 1,200-kilometer scar cutting directly through California. This is the San Andreas Fault, a ticking clock of imminent catastrophe. Here, the massive Pacific Plate and the North American Plate slide horizontally. Their jagged granite edges do not move smoothly. They lock together violently. The deep mantle currents never stop pushing these plates with immense energy. This deadlock builds up astronomical mechanical stress within the bedrock over decades. The fault zone accumulates terrifying potential energy until the stone violently fractures. Laser telemetry proves that towns on opposite sides move 5 centimeters closer. Divide this continuous displacement by modern city layouts, and collapse becomes inevitable. The deep friction bends solid underground rock formations like soft, flexible plastic. When the threshold is breached, the fault unleashes monster shockwaves across land. These violent vibrations are powerful enough to instantly liquefy the solid soil. Major metropolitan areas are built directly on top of this stressed bomb. What if you could plunge into freezing water and touch two continents? In Iceland, inside a deep volcanic fracture called Silfra, this is reality. This immense underwater chasm sits precisely on the divergent boundary of plates. The North American and Eurasian landmasses are actively tearing away from each other. The narrow abyss is filled with near-freezing, clear glacial water under pressure. Divers can physically place their hands on both continental walls simultaneously. The physical gap between these two massive tectonic structures widens every year. The continental separation increases by exactly 2 centimeters over 12 months. This continuous separation is driven by thousands of microscopic earthquakes every month. The constant seismic activity proves that the ocean floor is constantly fracturing. The water inside this rift remains at a lethal temperature of 2 degrees. It circulates violently through deep basalt networks that expand for millions of years. The mid-Atlantic ridge is forcing the Earth open, expanding the abyss daily. Now, look at the deepest, oldest body of fresh water on Earth. Lake Baikal holds 20% of the world's surface freshwater columns. But a horrifying geological nightmare hides beneath the beautiful, deep blue surface. Geologists ignore the water columns and focus entirely on the rift underneath. The Earth's crust directly beneath Lake Baikal is aggressively splitting apart. The Amurian Plate and the Eurasian Plate diverge, tearing bedrock into pieces. The bottom of this monstrous tectonic rift valley plunges 7 kilometers deep. This immense internal fracture is deep enough to cut the whole lithosphere. If this violent tearing process continues, Asia will completely fracture into subcontinents. The structural faults beneath the thick lake sediment expand with relentless force. This continuous movement opens deep fissures that release intense thermal hot springs. The crust has become so dangerously thin that magma warms abyssal water. In 2018, a terrifying event shocked the entire nation. A massive, deep fissure suddenly ripped through a major commercial Kenyan highway. The violent geological rupture split the asphalt, cutting off vital transit routes. This structural failure was not an isolated incident across the landscape today. The East African rift system is actively carving the Somali plate away. The sheer physical scale of this continental tear allows mantle plumes rise. This massive displacement of molten rock triggers heavy volcanic activity across regions. The lithosphere across several nations is being pulled apart by internal forces. While local residents spoke of ancient curses, engineers documented raw physical facts. The crust can no longer withstand the continuous, violent pulling of mantle. These large-scale ruptures will continue to shatter critical infrastructure without any warning. High-precision scientific sensors in northern Iceland currently monitor an incredibly volatile zone. This is the Krafla Rift, a highly unstable volcanic ridge segment. Here, the continental plates pull apart with extreme force, fracturing bedrock continuously. This aggressive divergent movement allows massive pressurized magma chambers rise near surface. The ground across the Krafla Rift actively deforms, lifting multiple meters. In recent history, industrial geothermal drilling units accidentally breached a live chamber. The heavy steel drill bits plunged straight into liquid stone deep down. The equipment encountered extreme environments exceeding 900 degrees Celsius down there. This accidental penetration unleashed raw subterranean power that shocked scientists in seconds. The incredible thermal stress within this sector creates a highly dangerous landscape. The physical properties of solid stone are permanently altered by trapped gases. The deepest point on our entire planet was created by planetary collision. This is the Mariana Subduction Zone, located deep within Pacific waters. This boundary represents the exact coordinate where the old Pacific plate sinks. It plunges brutally beneath the smaller Mariana plate, creating a deep trench. The abyss drops nearly 11 kilometers straight down into the hot mantle. The friction and kinetic pressure inside this subduction zone are completely astronomical. Millions of tons of solid rock are crushed and melted under weight. Deep seismic listening devices have recently documented a truly shocking discovery. This violent subduction zone physically drags down 4 times more ocean water. The water is forced directly into the hot mantle under mechanical pressure. This process permanently alters the chemical composition of deep rock layers subterranean. The trapped water expands violently, triggering explosive volcanic activity across island arcs. The lowest land elevation point on Earth is the result of faulting. This is the Dead Sea Transform, cutting through 3 sovereign nations. This left lateral strike-slip fault system marks a highly active plate boundary. The Arabian plate is aggressively sliding past the African plate with force. These tectonic forces have dropped the valley floor 400 meters down. This extreme displacement has created a hypersaline, dead ecosystem without normal life. The movement along this massive fault line is never stable or quiet. Hydrogeological radar scans reveal that this movement opens giant subterranean salt cavities. These hollow zones collapse without warning, creating massive sinkholes that swallow roads. The structural integrity of the entire valley is completely compromised by shear. A dangerous geological boundary cuts straight through the pristine mountains of islands. This is the Alpine Fault, a massive, highly active strike-slip boundary line. The Australian plate and the Pacific plate collide here, sliding past horizontally. The physical force of this tectonic collision is intense, displacing the landscape. This continuous pressure forces the entire Southern Alps mountain range rise annually. The massive fault line is highly visible from satellite orbits as scars. Geological paleoseismic studies prove that this fault line stores kinetic stress accurately. It triggers an ultramassive magnitude 8 earthquake with near-perfect mathematical regularity. This predictable cycle occurs every 300 years, threatening human populations nearby. Modern engineering cannot mitigate or stop the widespread mountain displacement caused here. Deep beneath the river sediment of the United States lies a fracture. This is the New Madrid seismic zone, an ancient, failed rift. Unlike edge faults, this structural weakness is located right inside the plate. Because it is buried beneath miles of soil, it shows nothing. This total lack of visibility makes violent movements completely unpredictable to science. In 1811, a series of mega-earthquakes generated severe physical shocks. The intense vibrations were so powerful they literally shook the whole continent. The seismic energy temporarily forced the massive Mississippi River to flow backward. This impossible river reversal created entirely new lakes overnight, altering geography completely. This historical disaster proves that even the interior of stable plates has weaknesses. The most lethal underwater fault line on Earth rests beneath ocean waters. This is the Sumatra megathrust, a monstrous subduction boundary where plates lock. The Indo-Australian plate slides underneath the Sunda plate at a steep angle. The sheer physical size of this boundary allows it to store colossal pressure. The plates grind against each other, building up immense friction over centuries. When the threshold is breached, the fault releases energy in one explosion. In 2004, a massive rupture released energy incredibly vast. The force was equal to 23,000 atomic bombs dropped on cities. The sudden tectonic movement displaced the entire ocean floor, triggering global tsunamis. The disaster claimed over 200,000 lives, altering the planet's shape. The force was so immense it shortened the length of day permanently. The tectonic fault lines of our planet prove Earth is violent machinery. The continents we live on are merely moving pieces over raw magma. The real science of geography shows that nature does not require myths. These 11 coordinates are actively rewriting the physical map through raw force. Pressure, friction, and astronomical kinetic energy are continuously fracturing the crust below. The forces moving these plates operate on scales human engineering cannot control. We can only monitor the satellite telemetry and record incoming geodetic data. Which of these real geological destruction zones do you find most intense? Write your analysis in the comments section below and press the button. Do not forget to subscribe to ensure you receive our next documentation. The dynamic balance of our world depends entirely on deep tectonic systems. As they continue to shift, humanity must adapt to restless landscapes today. Every single hour, seismic monitors record the relentless shifting of these plates. The constant friction along transform boundaries slowly deforms the strongest crystalline rocks. Deep oceanic drilling continues to reveal how water impacts subduction zone physics. Liquid under extreme pressure acts as a lubricant, shifting major earthquake cycles. Geologists use satellite radar interferometry to trace millimeter-scale movements across fault zones. These high-tech measurements show that no continent is truly safe from fracture. The internal heat of the core drives mantle convection currents without stopping. This thermal energy creates immense dragging forces beneath the massive lithospheric plates. When these plates collide, the kinetic impact shatters mountains and deep valleys. The structural data collected from these rifts helps predict future global geography. Entire land masses will completely reshape, sinking old continents beneath major new oceans. Humanity builds its greatest civilizations directly on top of these deep fractures. Nuclear power plants, massive dams, and megacities sit along active fault lines. The price of an engineering error in these zones is instantly catastrophic. When the bedrock fails, modern technology cannot stop the incoming kinetic energy. The ground liquefies, structures collapse, and entire landscapes alter in seconds flat. This is the raw, unedited reality of living on an active planet. Our global transport networks and pipelines cross these shifting tectonic plate boundaries. Continuous geodetic monitoring is the only defense against sudden, violent crustal displacement. Scientists work around the clock to decipher signals from deep borehole instruments. Micro-earthquakes, thermal anomalies, and gas emissions are critical warning signs of rupture. The Earth speaks through these physical changes before a major fault snaps. Understanding these complex geological mechanisms is vital for the survival of infrastructure. The sheer mass of moving tectonic plates dwarfs all human engineering achievements. We cannot anchor the land or freeze the mantle currents below us. We are merely passengers on massive rock fragments floating over a molten furnace. The historical record shows that major fault activity has brought down empires. Cities vanish into deep fissures, and coastlines submerge beneath rising ocean waters. The Afar Triangle and the San Andreas Fault are just individual gears. They are parts of a massive, interconnected planetary machine that functions continuously. As the East African Rift expands, it actively tears apart existing nations. New volcanic chains form where the crust stretches thin and fractures completely. The incredible pressure inside subduction zones creates explosive, highly dangerous stratovolcanoes nearby. These geological features are physical evidence of the mantle recycling old crustal material. The Earth constantly destroys and recreates its surface through intense tectonic action. Every mountain range was pushed up by these relentless, crushing physical forces. Every ocean trench was carved by the brutal downward pull of subduction. Geography is not a static subject found only inside dusty school textbooks. It is a live, violent science written in stone, magma, and pressure. The data gathered from the Silfra fissure helps clarify continental rift mechanics. The expanding gap between plates is a direct visualization of plate tectonics. Deep lake systems like Baikal reveal the early stages of continental division. The extreme depths achieved by these rifts challenge conventional engineering and exploration. Specialized submersibles are required to study the unique geology of deep rifts. High temperatures and corrosive chemical venting destroy standard deep-sea research equipment quickly. Only specialized alloys can withstand the extreme parameters found inside active zones. The New Madrid seismic zone reminds us that danger hides inside plates. Stable mid-continent regions can experience catastrophic failure without any apparent warning signs. The stress travels through ancient crystalline basements, fracturing weak zones deep underground. This internal pressure can remain dormant for centuries before exploding in violence. The Sumatra megathrust stands as a stark warning of oceanic subduction power. The massive energy release altered the geodetic reference frames used by satellites. The entire physical mass of the island shifted during that single event. These monstrous events prove that our planet reshapes itself without human consent. We must respect the physical limits imposed by the shifting Earth below. Building resilient infrastructure requires deep cooperation with modern geophysical and structural science. The telemetry data we collect today will save millions of lives tomorrow. Stay informed about the hidden physical realities that actively govern our changing planet. Share your thoughts on these monstrous tectonic systems in the section below. The Earth will continue to fracture, and we must watch every shift.